Welcome to the SEVIS Basics. We are excited to bring you this training from the U.S. Department of State. It's designed for responsible officers and alternate responsible officers of exchange visitor programs. This presentation does not replace the Exchange Visitor Program regulations found in Title 22, Part 62 of the Code of Federal Regulations. For detailed guidance on the Exchange Visitor Program, visit j1visa.state.gov. The Student and Exchange Visitor Information System, SEVIS, helps ROs and AROs manage program sponsor data, create and update certificates of eligibility, Forms DS-2019, for exchange visitors and their dependents, and submit approval requests to the Department of State. The information collected in SEVIS is considered personally identifiable information. It should be safeguarded and only shared with individuals who have a need to know. There are 15 exchange visitor categories, as seen on the screen. SEVIS is rule-driven and aligns with the Code of Federal Regulations, Title 22, Part 62. It enforces the rules for each category, such as the minimum and maximum duration of participation and age limits. Your organization must have one responsible officer, RO, and at least one alternate responsible officer, ARO. ROs and AROs are responsible for complying with applicable federal regulations and guidance directives and using SEVIS to manage exchange visitor records, which includes issuance of Forms DS-2019 to qualified candidates and monitoring exchange visitors' participation throughout their programs. As an official, you are required to keep the details of your program up to date. On the Listing of Programs page, you will see all the programs your SEVIS username is associated with. The buttons at the bottom of the page allow you to access alerts, search, create new exchange visitor, lists, reports, and downloads. Clicking on the name of a program will open the Program Information page, where you can view sponsor information. This page contains all program-related data, including the program name, number, status, and address. It also contains the number of Forms DS-2019 that are available for issuance and the date of the most recent redesignation. Links on the left side allow you to submit requests such as redesignation and allotment. All the officials are listed at the bottom of the page. Click the Add Update Officials link if you need to update your listing of officials. You are responsible for key obligations in managing your designated program. You must submit your redesignation application 3 to 6 months prior to the designation expiration date. For example, if your designation expires on August 15th, you can submit your application as early as February 15th, but no later than May 15th. Allotment requests and the annual report must be submitted each year. If an official's name, citizenship, or contact information changes, you must update SEVIS within 10 business days. You must also update SEVIS if an official leaves the program.
How do I update my citizenship status from lawful permanent resident to U.S. citizen if it is locked in SEVIS?
Email the category-specific mailbox in the Office of Private Sector Exchange Designation. You must provide proof of the change, such as a certificate of naturalization or U.S. passport. As an RO or ARO, you must also keep your exchange visitors' information up to date as they move through the different stages of their program. Each stage is reflected as a status in SEVIS. Now let's consider the typical life cycle of an exchange visitor and their SEVIS record. Acme Inc., a designated sponsor, would like to invite an exchange visitor to participate in their program. In order to do that, they must first create and submit a Form DS-2019 in SEVIS and send it to the exchange visitor. At this point, the status of the exchange visitor's SEVIS record is initial. After receiving the form, they must pay the I-901 fee and obtain a J-1 visa. When the exchange visitor enters the United States and reports to their site of activity, an official at Acme must validate their program participation. Their record is now active, and they get an email notifying them of their status change. Throughout their program, their record must be kept up to date. When the exchange visitor's program ends, their status changes to inactive and they return to their home country. They will also receive an email regarding their inactive status. If things don't go as planned, an exchange visitor's SEVIS record could result in a different status. For example, if an exchange visitor is in initial status and their program is canceled before they enter the United States, their status will change to invalid. But if they enter the United States and fail to report to their site of activity, their status will change from initial to no-show. If the exchange visitor was on program and violated a sponsor's rule, and the sponsor thinks that using the Terminate EV function is warranted, the sponsor may update their status to terminated. And lastly, if an exchange visitor is participating in a program that allows them to transfer, such as a college-university student, their status would change to transferred when their current sponsor releases their record to their new sponsor. The exchange visitor will receive an email if their status changes to any of the statuses marked with an envelope icon. To summarize, if an official began creating a Form DS 2019 but did not submit it, the record is in draft status. The status will change to initial upon submission. A record in invalid status means that the form was canceled for a prospective exchange visitor by the sponsor or the system and was not used for entry into the United States. The system will automatically change the status from initial to invalid if it is more than 30 days after the program begin date and there is no port of entry information on the record. If an exchange visitor failed to report to their site of activity after using the Form DS 2019 to enter the United States, the status of the record is no-show. A record will also be in no-show status if an exchange visitor did not report after an approved change of status to J1 or a transfer from one J1 sponsor to another. The status is active if an exchange visitor is participating in the program. The status will automatically change to inactive the day after the program end date. However, if an exchange visitor's program ends for a negative reason, the sponsor may change the status of the record to terminated. The record is in transferred status if an exchange visitor transfers to another sponsor. Now that you understand the statuses, let's create an exchange visitor record. Begin by clicking New Exchange Visitor and entering details about the exchange visitor and their program. Spouse and dependent information can also be entered if one will accompany the exchange visitor. Depending on the exchange visitor's category, additional information may be required, such as residential for secondary school students and au pairs, and training internship placement plan for trainees, interns, and student interns. After submitting the record, a SEVIS ID number is assigned and your program allotment is decremented by 1. Clicking the Print Form button will generate a PDF of the Form DS 2019. The forms may be signed digitally or physically and may be transmitted electronically via email or by mail. The exchange visitor will use the form to pay the I-901 fee, apply for a visa, and enter the United States. If they experience a delay and will not start their program by the program begin date, use the Amend Program function.
After my exchange visitor got their visa, I noticed a typo in their site of activity. They are in initial status, but I don't see an option to edit it. How can I correct the typo?
When an exchange visitor receives their visa, the biographical, site of activity, and financial sections are locked, but can be edited after the record is validated. When an exchange visitor starts their program, they must be validated within 30 days of the program begin date. If the exchange visitor's program is less than 30 days, the exchange visitor must be validated prior to the program end date. When validating an exchange visitor's record, you must provide a physical address, phone number, and email address. The physical address must be valid and complete, including any room or apartment numbers. Phone numbers and email addresses must be specific to the individual. In addition, You must provide residential information for au pairs and secondary school students and tip signature dates for intern, trainees, and student interns. Note, if applicable, the exchange visitor's record must also contain proof of I-901 fee payment. While the exchange visitor is in active status, keep in mind there are several functions that can be used to maintain their record. If an exchange visitor needs more time to complete their program, the extension within and beyond functions must be submitted prior to the program end date. The shortened program function should be used if an exchange visitor will end their program for a neutral reason more than 15 days prior to the program end date. The terminate EV function should only be used for negative reasons. For example, exchange visitors should not be terminated for withdrawal from program or change of status approved. Don't forget to update SEVIS if the exchange visitor has informed you that their U.S. address, telephone number, email address, or primary site of activity has changed. Changes made to the exchange visitor's record are captured in the event history. Click the plus icon to see the details of the event.
My exchange visitor informed me that they had a family emergency and need to leave the United States before starting their program. What should I do?
First, amend the exchange visitor's program begin date to the date they entered the United States. In our case, the exchange visitor arrived on September 15th. Next, validate their program to change the status to active. And finally, shorten the program to the date they left or will leave the United States, selecting the appropriate reason. In our case, the exchange visitor will leave the United States on September 25th. SEVIS will automatically update the exchange visitor's status to inactive the day after the program end date. If the exchange visitor's status is incorrect, you have a limited time frame to correct it before a reinstatement is required. For example, if the exchange visitor's status has changed to no-show, but they have begun participating in their program, and it is less than 30 days since the status changed to no-show, you can use the correct SEVIS status action to change their status to active. After 30 days, you would need to use the reinstatement update SEVIS status function and pay the non-refundable fee. The status of a J2 spouse or dependent will typically match the status of a J1 exchange visitor. If necessary, you can use the following actions to update the J2 status independently. Invalidate, use if the J2 did not enter the United States. End status, use if the J2 leaves the United States before the exchange visitor's program ends. Terminate, use if the J2 status should end for a negative reason, such as unauthorized employment. Correct SEVIS status, used to update the J2's status from invalid, no-show, inactive, or terminated to match the status of the J1. This action is only available if the J1's record is in initial or active status. SEVIS has lists and alerts to help you keep track of the exchange visitor records that you created. The lists will help you locate groups of records in the same status, such as all initial or active. Alerts will help you to identify records that require attention because of an approaching deadline. For example, the exchange visitors requiring validation alert includes records that are in initial or transferred status and may need to be validated. If you are looking for specific records, there are several ways to search for them. If you know the SEVIS ID of the person you want to search for, enter it in the header. If you don't know the SEVIS ID, you can search using other criteria by entering it on the Search Exchange Visitors and Dependents page. For more information, refer to the j1visa.state.gov website for SEVIS user manuals and additional training videos. For technical questions, email jsevis@state.gov. Thank you for your commitment to the Exchange Visitor Program.